Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Mental Health Matters. Our mission is to encourage open and productive dialogue about mental health, as well as break down any myths or stigmas about mental health among the Black diaspora. I am your host, Esther, and today we have a special guest with us discussing the topic of how to immunize yourself against anxiety and excessive stress. We are joined today by Dr. DeQuavion Cloud. Dr. Cloud is currently a social worker for Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, where he provides group and individual counseling. He has been in the field of social work for over 8 years, and during his time, he has served in various capacities, including outpatient mental health, adult and juvenile correctional facilities, HIV treatment centers, and the school system serving grades K through 12. Welcome, Dr. Cloud. How are you?
Okay. Hi, good morning. All right.
Good morning.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm doing well. I hope everybody else is doing well.
Yes.
So
Hi. All right. Yeah. So, this is a topic that's very, very near and dear to my heart as someone who suffers from anxiety. And I started going to therapy for anxiety last year. And, before we really get into the meat of the conversation, I just wanted to hear from you in your own words. Like, how would you describe both stress and anxiety in your own words?
stress. I'm gonna try to describe it the best I can in my own words because it's weird. So stress to me is just like this. It's like this feeling on your chest, right? It's kind of like, feel like your heart's gonna explode, or
Hmm.
to me, that's what stress is. It's just like this overbearing fear, that everything's just going wrong. That's how I look at stress. So it just kind of affects your heart. When I look at anxiety, I look at that more in a mental capacity most times, because anxiety to me is just like the walls are closing in,
Hmm.
and it's like, nothing can go right, nothing's going to go right. The walls are closing in, I can't breathe, and I feel like that I'm sinking, or that I'm trying to swim to keep myself from drowning. That's how I look at anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy that you brought up the topic of it affecting your heart because, stress can have an impact on your heart. It can make you have more like high blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, even in very, very serious like situations. If it is really, really bad, like you can even have a heart attack, you could have a stroke, cardiac arrest, all these things. So I really like to just always drive the point home that like mental disorders can also manifest into physical ailments. So I'm really, really happy that that you brought up the effects that it can have on the heart as well. And I just also wanted to go like a little bit further, looking at the Black community. I feel like a lot of times we tend to oversimplify um, mental health disorders, including anxiety, depression, all of those different things. So, how do we combat these oversimplifications of mental health disorders like anxiety? Because I see a lot, like in my own experience, I see a lot of times it's like, oh, just think about something else. Just deal with it, whatever. People just they don't really see it as a big issue, but it can be. So in our community, especially, how do you think that we should combat these oversimplifications of mental health disorders?
So I will say that, when it comes to our culture, and the way we look at stress and anxiety, right? It's kind of going to be hard to look at how do we make it, when you look at oversimplification, and then how we kind of correct it. It's going to be hard because we got to look at it generational, right?
Yes.
So, if I'm looking at my grandmother's generation or my mom's generation, my grandmother's generation, but there's no such thing as stress or anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
If you told your parents back in that time that hey, I'm stressed, I'm having anxiety, you might hear something like, well, you stressed because you're not doing your schoolwork, you're stressed
Yeah.
because you too busy in grown folks' business. And then my mom's generation kind of had that trickle effect as well, is that we don't get over it, or just stop thinking about it as well. And so that kind of led into the whole stigmatization of well, we can't really talk about our feelings. We can't really, how can we really talk about stress and anxiety when we're always told to get over it? And I think another thing that we keep telling people is, if you pray about it, you'll get over
Yeah.
it. I think we also try to include religion into these conversations as well when we're talking about anxiety and stress, but and that kind of makes it worse because we love to tell people that if you give it to God, He'll take it all away. But I think one of my favorite quotes is, faith without work is dead. You could pray about it, but also what are you going to do about it to make it work? You can have
Mm-hmm.
faith you're going to get over the stress, but what are you going to do to make sure that the stress kind of goes out of your system? So I think when we're having these open conversations about, like you said earlier, stress and anxiety can produce itself in a physical aspect. I think
Mm-hmm.
have these open conversations and we kind of have it in layman's terms. That means we're meeting people where they're at, mentally, and having those conversations. Then we could stop kind of get it to more of a simpler form. So for instance, if we're talking to somebody with no more than a high school education, they might not fully understand, the jargon that we use as social workers, medical professionals, when we're talking about, your stress can induce these type of mental disorders. If they only have a high school education but not much more, they might not know fully what they may look like, right?
Mm.
So if they have a college education, a little bit of a 4-year, 2-year, 4-year degree, they might actually understand a little bit more because
Yeah.
they have the mental capacity or the mental stand pace to understand that, okay, this is exactly what it's going to manifest into. So we have to simplify it by first meeting people where they are at mentally, right?
Yeah.
And especially for those who are health illiterate. So, those would be our people with lower socioeconomic demographics. That would be people who are homeless, people who are already, diagnosed or undiagnosed mental health disorders. We have to also meet them there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so that's just how it is for that. That's how we're going to simplify it. And it's going to take the work because we got to work depending on the generation.
Yeah. And I really like what you said. I think you said faith without work means nothing, right?
Yes, pay for that work is dead.
Yeah, yeah, it's dead. Yeah, and I completely feel you. Like I grew up Catholic, and I throughout my struggle with anxiety as well. Like I've had people tell me just pray it away, and it's like I've tried, that doesn't work. And so that's why I sought out a therapist, and this journey it has been hard, but I definitely have improved. I'd say, within the past year, like in a much better place than I was a year ago, so I'm very very thankful for that. And I feel like if it's available to you, especially if your insurance provides it, to our audience, I would definitely say, try to seek therapy. Write down a list of what you're looking for in a therapist. If you want a therapist that's maybe a person of color, maybe if you want a black therapist in particular, those kind of things, just like write down what you would want in a therapist and try to seek help, because you can't do this alone, and it's very very hard, and you need sometimes professional treatment. Yeah. And I also wanted to touch, Dr. Cloud, on stereotypes that I think that have impacted the way that we view mental health in our community. I'm talking about the stereotypes like the strong Black woman. So how do these stereotypes, like the strong Black woman, how do they harm our diaspora in the context of anxiety and stress?
So I will say I have been a perpetrator of some of these stereotypes, but that's only because before I learned exactly the harm that it causes.
Yes.
Somewhere in my clinical career, so I kind of learned the harm that these actually cause. So I can actually, own that, own that in my lifetime. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say first, the strong Black woman stereotype. I think is the worst stereotype we can ever use for women, for Black women.
Yeah.
Just like boys don't cry, men don't cry. It's also one of the worst strong stereotypes that we can all use for men, for black boys and black men as well, and they harm it because we're pretty much telling women that they can do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew the full effects of postpartum depression, right? Or or depression in women as they get older, and that anxiety and stress as well. And we always tell women, especially women of color, to be a strong black woman. You
Mm.
if you can give birth, you can raise kids, you can keep down the household, you can go to work, cook dinner, clean up, and do everything in a full day, right? That she's a
Yeah.
strong black woman. But we're also kind of telling her that she can't have anxiety, she can't have stress. And so we're kind of not affirming her that this is an open space, and that she can kind of talk about it, right? And I never really knew what exactly that looked like until, and I can use this as an example, until my mom.
Mm.
My mom, me and my mom had an open conversation a couple of years ago, because I was like, Mom, you're not yourself, you're not yourself. And she said, I'm distressed. I never heard my
Aw.
mom say that. And
Mm.
being her child, you know, I never heard my mom say, I'm stressed. Most parents will always, do what they can and then not tell you what's going on. But for my
Yeah.
mom, it was presenting itself in physical manifestations, right? And so the stress was getting bad that I had to sit down with her and say, you can't be strong for everybody if you're not strong for yourself. And
Mm.
if there is something going on, you know, let me carry some of the burden to make it easier on yourself. And
Mm.
as parents, and if there are any parents watching, I know sometimes that you believe that your children are not the people who need to take on the burden of what you're going through. But we don't have to really take on a burden, but we could be a listening ear. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I always tell my mom that, I said, I don't have to take on the full burden, but I could be a listening ear, not because
Yeah.
of what my degrees are in or what I do professionally. It's because I'm your child, and as we get older, the roles start to kind of reverse, anyways. We
Yeah.
we start kind of taking care of our parents the way they take care of us.
Yeah.
Even though my mom's not that old, or I always tell my mom, let me kind of take care of you, on a mental aspect and stuff like that. So, that anxiety, that stress that you're feeling, you're not always carrying with you. Use me as a sounding board, because,
Yeah.
I can't really be biased because, or unbiased, because I'm your child regardless. But most of the situations that you're telling me about, I know nothing about them until you tell me. So I have
Mm.
an unbiased opinion about them, and it's just me giving you what I believe may be the best course of action. Just like the strong black man, or a black man don't cry stigma.
Exactly.
It took me a while to kind of be okay with with my anxiety and my own stress.
Yeah.
You said earlier, anxiety and stress. Everybody has it. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
My anxiety and my stress present itself when I'm in a room with too many people. I have
Mm.
bad anxiety.
It's like
Um,
overstimulation
it's
or like
overstimulation,
overwhelming.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't like. I can't. My anxiety kind of comes to play when I'm home by myself, and I keep two fans running in my household in like two different areas, because too much quiet gives me bad.
Oh, I feel you. I
Like
honestly feel you.
if it's too quiet in my household, like I get very bad anxiety. I never figured out why that is, and I have a therapist too. Therapists have
Mm-hmm.
therapists. Therapists have therapists, but I have very bad anxiety with it, and it's something that I've never really been able to get out of, even as a child. So I have to have some type of noise, in every room of my household. So my kitchen, my living room, my bedroom, I have to have like some type of background noise, like playing in there. So I have my fans. So I have like fans in each one of those areas, and that's my background noise. And I can hear when each one of those get turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as I come right in the house, like
You're like, something's up.
something's up. And I tell, because when my mom or my sister comes and visit and they turn off one of the fans,
Mm.
my body already says, "Hey, something's off." And I think it's my safety blanket, kind of, for my anxiety. Like I know there's some type of noise, so I'm kind of comforted there, and that's fine. It's healthy. It's healthy, and to me, I think that's a better outlet of dealing with my anxiety, is because I have that safety blanket, which
Yeah.
is which most people have some type of safety blanket for their anxiety and their stress. But also, we have to kind of get rid of that the norm of telling people you're a strong black woman and black men don't cry, black boys don't cry, because that's how we're going to get people to talk about their anxiety and their stress.
Yeah.
When I'm too stressed, if it displays itself in my back,
Oh, really? In your back?
in my back, I have when
No.
I am stressed, I have the worst back pain,
Oh, no.
and it will put me down for days
Yeah.
until I deal with the stress or I do something to relieve it. And you know, a lot of people never understand what it means. But again, I'm glad we're having a conversation of stress and anxiety physically manifest themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Stress will always manifest itself in my back. It, I
Mm.
don't care what I'm doing. If I have too much of a stressful day, if I'm stressed about something, my back is gonna start hurting, and that's just it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely feel you about, needing to have some like background noise. For me, I fall asleep to like video essays on YouTube about like the most randomest things. It could be like, a deep dive onto like Victorious on Nickelodeon or something like that. Like they're just like the randomest things. I need something. And then now that I'm back at my parents' house, like my room is right next to their room, and then like they wake up really really early, and I guess like sometimes like I don't know if like my earphones like disconnect from my phone, but they're like, yeah, like I heard a video playing in like your bedroom, and I was like, oh, that was probably like one of my essays, my deep dives that I was listening to. But yeah, I really feel you as well on when you were talking about your mother, you were saying like how can I take care of you. I wanted to also touch on, support systems. So, why is having a support system so important when we're dealing with disorders like anxiety?
So your support systems are important because they're going to ground you, right? And I'm also going to, so this is going to be a two-part answer because we also
Mm-hmm.
talk about people who may not have that familiar connection for a support system. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of addressing both parts because some people may not have a family structure. So
Mm-hmm.
I always look at it that way. So for the first part, you have a support system, a familiar connection. Those people are going to ground you. My
Yeah.
grandmother, my mother, my twin sister, my best friend, those are my sounding boards, right?
Yeah.
When I have a lot of anxiety, when, public speaking used to give me a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then we get to the point that, my physical manifestation when I had to public speak or the day before a major like speaking event, I had to use the bathroom a lot,
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
a whole lot. And the day
Oh.
of, leading up, bathroom a lot. That was how my anxiety would present itself because I was
Mm-hmm.
just so afraid. And so having my family there, they kind of root me. So I kind of think of my your support system as like a tree. So like they're pretty much the roots, of the tree, and they kind of are keeping you grounded. And then the branches, the leaves, and everything else. That's pretty much you. They're just there as your root,
Mm.
and that's how I look at it as well. So when we're looking at people who may not have a family connection, I got to look at your outside support system.
Yes.
My favorite quote growing up is that it takes a village to raise a child.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
your village, what people don't understand is that your village may not be exactly be family connections. So
Yeah.
your village may be things such as your close friends. It may be, I call it the community grandma. Everybody is that grandma, that old lady that's been living in your neighborhood since you were a child, and she knows
Mm-hmm.
everybody. She know your parents, your grandparents, and she knows you since you were a baby. And it may be your best friend's family. It's just the people who support you in those moments when you're at your lowest, and they uplift you, they plant you, and they help you grow.
Yeah.
It may not always, and those are going to be important in dealing with your anxiety and your stress because those people are going to be your sounding boards. Those are going to be your safe spaces, and
Yeah.
I'm very big on safe spaces.
Yes.
And those people are going to be the ones who kind of, when you're having a bad anxiety moment, a bad stressful moment, those people are going to be the ones who can kind of help you get back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I credit my best friend, and I always tell him this when I see him. I had a bad anxiety attack when I was in grad school. And then I had another bad anxiety attack when I was in my doctoral program, preparing to defend. And
Yeah.
my best friend, we've been best friends for a long time. And so the good thing about that is he's kind of used to my anxiety episode, and so he knows how to kind of root me back to myself. And it's gonna look different for everybody, but those connections, they will know how to help you, you know, through your anxiety or or your stressful moments, because they know you so well.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, for me, like I think of a support system as people who can advocate for you when you can't
Mhm.
advocate for yourself. And just thinking about right now, this show, I was like a little bit anxious. I was like, I've only just joined the research committee, just like a couple weeks ago. And now I'm hosting, you know what I mean? And I was talking to my sister, I was talking to my best friends, I was talking to my cousins. I was like, I'm kind of nervous, but they affirmed me. They're like, you got this. Like,
Mhm.
this is a topic that you know so much about, and just you got this. Like, you can do it. And you mentioned also about that you get anxiety about like public speaking, and a lot of people get anxiety about public
Mhm.
speaking, and a lot of people also get anxiety about like future events. I believe it's called like anticipatory anxiety.
It is.
um so how can we learn to be like more present and in the moment when dealing with anticipatory anxiety and stress?
Whew. So, I'm a. So you're gonna hear me mention my mom a lot because
Oh, please do, please
she's a
do.
great lady of wisdom. So my mom always said, "Why are you stressing about the things that you cannot control?"
Hmm.
That's her favorite quote to tell to me, because I would get anxiety, or I would be stressing over the smallest things, or like, oh, this might go wrong, this could go wrong. I'm afraid to do this, and my mom
Yeah.
always tell me, "Why are you stressing about the things you cannot control?" Right? And I think that kind of has made me snap back a lot. So you got to
Hmm.
kind of have that. I call it my glitch phrase. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, as soon as I hit it, I kind of snap back into the present moment. And so a lot of us cannot avoid anticipatory stress. A lot of us cannot, or anxiety. The only reason is because we're so used to thinking ahead because of what we did with in the past.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take work for those type of individuals to kind of get to the point where they can start kind of be right there in the moment. If you have a close family connection, or a close network of friends who care about you, then of course they'll keep you rooted in that moment.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are trying to kind of stay in the present, think about your why. And I always say, think about your why now, right? What am I doing right now that's going to affect my life later? And
Hmm.
what can I be doing right now that's going to help me in this moment?
Yeah.
If I think about the future, I'm going to have anxiety about it. But if I think about what I can do now and what I can control in this moment, then I'm kind of going to be okay with it myself. And
Yeah.
I have to do that a lot now. So when
Me
I'm
too.
when I'm in the community, anytime I'm doing, like, guest speaking events, anytime I have to do something that's going to bring me a lot of anxiety, I always catch myself talking about how this is going to affect me later. What can this do to me? And then I have
Yes.
to kind of bring myself back to that quote of, why am I letting things stress me out or bring me anxiety that I cannot control?
Hmm.
And so my mom, that's exactly my mom's quote that comes right into my head, and I snap right back into the moment. And I have to think about, what am I doing right now in this moment,
Yeah.
and that's always what kind of keeps me there, thinking like, okay, today we are doing this, and this is what it's going to look like for us, and this is how we pray it's going to go, and we can only be in this moment for now,
Exactly.
and we will handle things as they come along.
Exactly. I feel you. I am right with you. I know that you mentioned that that you experience anxiety attacks during grad school, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I experience like panic attacks, maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 a month. I didn't know that they were panic attacks until I started college. I've been experiencing panic attacks ever since I was a child. Usually, like they come out when I'm like late at night. I can be doing nothing, and then all of a sudden it's just like that dread and that
Hmm.
fear. My heart is racing. Like I feel like I can't breathe. Like I feel like my lungs are closing up. Um, that happens to me like, yeah, pretty frequently, I'd say. And I also just wanted to touch on, you said your mom quotes, why worry about things that you can't control.
Mhm.
And I definitely, my therapist tells me the same thing. I go to my therapist and I'm like, I'm anxious about A, B, C, D, E, and then she's like, whoa, 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 wait up, like, be in the moment, be present. And
Mhm.
honestly, it takes me back to this prayer. I grew up Catholic, by the way.
Mhm.
It takes me back to this prayer that we used to say during my childhood, but I hadn't heard it in so long, until my therapist, started saying, why are you so anxious over these things that you can't control? It was like, um, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can change. Um, accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And throughout my anxiety journey, that has helped me so much. So much. And just, trying to be present in the moment. So I was wondering if you had any other, quotes or mantras, phrases that you tell yourself when you're excessively worrying about something.
So yeah, so I love what you just said because I grew up on that too, even as I
Mm-hmm.
talk about this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, and this one is funny, but it kind of drives home who I am as a person. So anytime I'm obsessively stressing about something, my favorite mantra is, God, whatever you're doing, don't do it without me. Always my favorite thing to say because I don't know what goes on, and I always say that it's always my first thing that comes out my mouth. And then my second affirmation or mantra that I love to tell myself is that you are present enough to be able to do whatever you need to do in this season.
Yeah.
And that's always my favorite one to go to. But of course, I go back to my mom's. Is why am I worried about the things that I cannot change? And then my grandmother, I love one of her affirmations is, you either gonna swim or you gonna sink. But as long as you make it to the other side, one way or the other, you gonna come out alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to kind of go through those in my head sometimes. Like, okay, like we gonna make it. I promise you gonna make it. But those kind of help me kind of with my stress and my anxiety because they kind of keep me in those moments, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning and I'm pulling from my family in those moments, and I'm also leaning and pulling from my faith as well. And so
Yeah.
I, one of growing up in the church, I think some of my pastors used to say is that you know God always has His hands on you, even when you can't see his handprints,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then one of my favorite, it's not a Bible, it's not from the Bible, but it's one of my favorite, I guess, like biblical quotes is that when I look down into the sand, I only see one pair of footsteps,
Mm.
and that I knew God was carrying me. And so, and my used to have it hanging in her bathroom a very long time ago, like in the 90s. So that's how I remembered it from a child. And so those kind of things kind of remind me that, even when I'm stressing about things, even when I'm having this anxiety going on, you know, pull from my comfort,
Yes.
pull from these affirmations, these mantras, pull from my faith, pull from my family, pull from the areas or the people who have poured into me, so that in these moments I'm able to deal with exactly what I'm going to, and I'm also able to describe and accept what I'm going through as well. And
Yeah.
that's like the biggest thing. You have to accept what you're going through. When you're going through a stressful moment, when you're having anxiety, you need to be able to accept that you're having anxiety and that you're experiencing some type of stress. And you need to be able to go from there and say, how can I control it, or how can I get rid of it in those moments?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. And this is kind of like segueing into my next question. I think that a lot of people who are anxious, like, they're their own like worst critic. Like, I even observe this in myself. Like, I beat myself up over like the smallest things. I ruminate over things that aren't even that important. And like, how can we give ourselves grace instead of constantly beating ourselves up, instead of, ruminating? Like, how can we give ourselves grace when dealing with a lot of stress?
So you are saying one of my favorite things
Mhm.
that has been my motto for the year: give yourself grace.
Yes.
And let me tell you, a lot of people are going to find it hard to, because like you said, we're our own worst critics. Some days I beat
Mhm.
myself up, And I had to kind of remind myself, you're doing a good job. Okay.
Mhm.
You are doing the best job that you can with what you have been given. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace to cry. Give yourself grace to be tired. Give yourself
Amen.
grace to feel this anxiety, this stress. Give yourself grace knowing that you are only human and that the things that you are dealing with, you are handling the best that you can. And the
Yeah.
reason I say that is because we are, like you said, we are our own worst critics to the point that we will talk ourselves out of doing so much good for ourselves because
Yeah.
we believe that it may be bad later down the line. And when you give yourself that grace and that autonomy to be free in those moments or those spaces, you're allowing yourself or you're telling yourself that I can be different. I can be this person. I just need to give myself this grace. And once you start getting to that mind frame of grace, I give myself grace. I give myself the autonomy and the permission to do this. It changes your outlook. It really does. And I think a lot of people don't realize what that can do to your life. There have been plenty of times where I have, had a stressful moment or had some anxiety, and I said, no, we're not going to do that. I'm going to give myself the grace today, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel guilty when I take off work, because
Mm.
like people need me, but I have to remind myself, but you need yourself. You
Yeah.
need yourself. Give yourself grace to have a day to yourself, and that's just what you got to do. It's not a band-aid to fit that that fixes everything temporarily. It's something that you continually have to do every day. You have to wake up every day and say, "I want to give myself grace." Right? I'm going to give myself the chance to do something differently, to be somebody different, to change this in my lifetime, to change this in my life currently,
Yeah.
to make my life easier.
Yeah.
So I tell my mom all the time, give yourself grace. I was because my mom, and this is a little bit is my mom has me. I'm the first set of twins, and then
Oh, you're a twin. I didn't know that.
we have another set of twins.
Oh, wow.
So and my mom and I always laugh at my mom. I was like, "You have two sets of twins." He said, "Each day, I have to remind myself that y'all are completely different individuals because all
Yeah.
our personalities are different." So he
Yeah.
said, "But I would tell her, well, give yourself some grace because you realize that all your children are different, and we're all very different.
Mhm.
Like we're all very different, and I think that is what makes it so enjoyable because we all kind of lean on each other."
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And we've been through so much over the past 3 years. Like, yeah, you really have to give yourself grace because of all the things that we've experienced in the Black community. Especially, we've lost so many notable celebrities and everything like that, police brutality, the pandemic, this, that, and the third. There's so many things going on, and if you are having a bad day, just relax and take care of yourself. And I think that it's of all the things that we've dealt with over the past 3 years, I think that it's honestly shifted the way that we look at mental health, and everything, especially in the workplace and in academia as well. So this is kind of leading up to my next question. um, especially as a social worker, I can only imagine how demanding that is. I worked in ABA therapy. That was a very demanding role as well. So we all know that excessive stress can lead to burnout. So how do you prevent burnout, and how do you bounce back from it?
Whew. So I want to answer this backwards. So how do I bounce back from burnout? So I used to work in child protective services.
Mm.
If anybody who's ever worked in CPS, that is one of the most stressful, high anxiety inducing jobs. But I love children. I love children.
Me
But
too.
that job was so stressful because of the situations. It's called secondary trauma. So, I was kind of getting the children's trauma and taking it home with myself. It would kind of hurt me because of what my children were going through. And so I got to the point where I was 2.5 years into my career as a CPS social worker. And I said, I can't do it anymore. Like I was completely burned out. I was
Yeah.
starting to become numb.
Yeah.
And once I had that realization that I was becoming numb and less empathetic, I knew
Yeah.
that I had to leave that field.
Yeah.
but I knew that I still love kids, so I ended up transitioning to a whole different job where it kind of allowed me to kind of bounce back and regain my passion. But I also started doing other things as well that kind of helped me regain my passion, like volunteering, working with children, like outside of CPS.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reignited my passion and kind of got rid of my burnout of my passion of working with kids and families.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip end, the good thing is that when I am experiencing burnout, or when I feel burnout is kind of coming on, um, I kind of give myself pause. I need to give myself pause. I take inventory of my body. And if for y'all don't know what inventory of your body is you're taking inventory of yourself on 5 levels. So for me, mine's be spiritual, mentally, emotionally, physically, and
Mm-hmm.
sexually.
Mm-hmm.
So because I need to know exactly how is my anxiety or my stress affecting me on those 5 levels, right? So if I'm having high anxiety and stress, or my burnout is coming into my body, where's it affecting me at, right? So most times, what I do is I just give myself that pause to take inventory, and then once I kind of know exactly, okay, this is what's causing my burnout, we take a break.
Yeah.
We take a very needed break, and for me, that's a lot of sleep. And and everybody knows that if I will go to sleep in a heartbeat. I will take a nap.
Me
Actually,
too.
actually taking a nap is very important for your mental health. And I think people don't understand that when you nap, sleep kind of recharges your body. And I also do a lot of mundane things as well. I still watch cartoons.
Me too.
Tell people this, like, because I don't have to think about what I want to watch on TV. If I see a cartoon on TV, I think I'm watching Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur right now on Disney Plus, and
Love that.
I'm okay with that. The reason why is because it's a mundane task. It's something that takes me back to my childhood, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of lets me kind of just sit in the moment of watching something that, even though it's kind of for like kids, I'm okay with watching it because it kind of doesn't let me think about anything else. The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, would have been my favorite show since it came back on. I binged
Yes.
it in 2 days. For those 2 days, I was so peaceful. I from work, I would put on the Proud Family, Loud and Prouder, and I would just, allow myself to just. That was it. I would just watch that, and I would either grab a bowl of cereal or grab dinner if I already had dinner cooked, and that was how I was able to kind of bounce back from those burnout episodes.
Yeah.
That was just partially what I would do.
Yeah. Naps are so needed. My parents always like, you can just sleep. Like, wow. I'm like, if I can nap through anything, I swear, like I'm in California. I can nap through an earthquake. I
Yeah.
am such a deep sleeper. And my parents are just always like so amazed by that. We were actually talking about this like a couple days ago. But yeah, naps are so important. If you sometimes you just need a nap, just like recharge, especially
Mhm.
because anxiety can really keep you up at night. Like I know a lot of people who have anxiety that also experience insomnia. And when you're not getting sleep, like
Mhm.
you said, sleep is when you recharge. Um, your body needs a break, and naps are there for when you need to do that. And yeah, and I also love that you touched on cartoons, and I think that comfort shows, comfort movies, comfort
Mhm.
music, very very important. Whenever I'm going through an anxiety attack, like a panic attack, one of my favorite cartoons is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I love it.
I since my childhood, like ever since I was like 10 or 11, that's been literally my favorite cartoon. So whenever I'm experiencing a panic attack, I go on Netflix, put one of the episodes on. Southern Raiders is like one of my favorite episodes in book 3. But yeah, just like finding things that can calm you down. And when you're experiencing anxiety, like your flight response is activated.
Mhm.
And if you're experiencing that over a prolonged time, like we mentioned, the effects that it can have on your heart, also on your immune system, like your body needs a time where it can like recover from that.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you're constantly stressed, constantly anxious, like your fight or flight response is on. And it's really in the long run not good for you at all. And then, yeah, I just wanted to continue our conversation about talking about anxiety in the workplace. I wanted to touch on boundary setting as well. So, what does that look like across like our work life balance? Like, what does boundary setting mean to you?
So for me, I always tell my job when I start, I said, from 8 to 5, y'all know Dr. Cloud. After 5 o'clock, I do not know y'all. Y'all don't know me. My work phone gets turned off.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an emergency, you have my personal number. Don't use it. But and I may joke on my job, but my boundary for my work is that work stays at work. I had to learn it after leaving my CPS job. Work stays at work. On the weekends, we do not think about work.
Yeah.
There may be sometimes I may catch myself talking about work, with my mom or something, like, oh, today I got to do, I'm doing HIV testing today, at this community center, right? If anybody wants to come. But other than that, after 5 o'clock, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
I was after 5 o'clock. I professionally do not know what I do after 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, all I know is that I'm at my house and that I don't have a career.
Yeah.
So and that's how, and I do not add colleagues. I do not add anybody professionally on any of my social media. That is my boundary. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to see what I'm doing after 5 o'clock. You can see me at work and see how I act there. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why is because I don't want my two lives to intermingle with each other.
Mm.
That's just needed. Like if I have a work event and I invite people out, sure, that's different. But other than that, my professional, my personal life, I believe should always stay separate. It creates less anxiety, less stress on me. It,
Yeah.
it also reduces the stigmatization of that I'm a working professional 24/7,
Yeah.
which is this narrative that we got into that you're still a part of the company, and so you got to always
Yeah.
be your best behavior. Listen, after 5 o'clock, I don't know Dr. Cloud. I don't know him. That is a completely different man. That who how he acts, how he talk in a professional manner. After 5 o'clock, we switch to ebonics. We have them sweat. We have them
Code switching is real. Code
posted
switching
really
is so
fast.
real.
So that's pretty much how I do. And I also tell people in my personal life what my boundaries are. So for instance, I don't allow people to touch me without my permission.
Yeah.
I'm very big on that. So I always tell people, even though my love language is physical touch, I don't allow people to touch me without my permission. It's
Yeah.
just on my boundary.
Consent.
Yeah,
Consent
consent.
is important.
Because it reduces, people have this, I guess, this ideology that, well, if I give you a hug or something like that, I expect the hug back. Don't touch me without my permission. That's one of my
Yeah.
healthy boundaries, right? When I'm quiet, or when I'm in a safe, or when I'm in my own space, ask me, right? Do I have the mental capacity to take on your anxiety or your stress for the day or whatever you're going through? Ask me if I have that mental capacity, because maybe I'm not in that space right now to deal with somebody else's, trials and tribulations currently.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of gauge the room, kind of read the
Read the
energy,
room.
read the room, and see exactly, if I'm able to do that. And that's just how I set boundaries, because it makes it healthy for me. It makes it less stressful that I feel like I have to interact. One of my close friends, he he's just kind of in the same. He's the same person. We can hang around each other and not talk. Like we could sit
Love
there with each
that.
other. We'll have music playing in the background. He'll be on his tablet drawing. I'll be reading my book. You know, but we're just sharing a space together. And
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like we have to talk. It doesn't feel like we need to talk about anything. When we do need to talk, we both know when it's time to. And so, that's one of my safe spaces. And I always tell him that, that's a safe space for each other, because, he'll come visit, and sometimes we'll watch Avatar Last Airbender, or,
Aw.
we watch Spirited Away, something that I was like,
Oh, I love that. Studio Ghibli.
yeah, I was
Yes.
like, I haven't seen this since I was a child, but,
Yeah.
it's in those moments where, while the movies are playing that we already seen, the comfort shows, right? That's his comfort movie. We have these open dialogues with each other, like, about our anxiety, our stress as Black men, in
Mm-hmm.
our lives. And so that is one of our boundaries, is allow each other the space to be present, within each other's lives.
Yes.
And that's what I tell everybody in my life. You know, allow me and allow yourself to have that space to be present.
Yeah.
When you're ready, to talk about things, or if you don't ever want to talk about it, you have that autonomy, you have that grace just to be present.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, and I just wanted to say, like, boundary setting, it's different for everyone. The best part about boundary setting is you get to decide what your boundaries are. So it
Yeah.
could look completely different across everybody. And I just love that, you said that after 5 p.m., like, I don't know, Dr. Cloud. Like, you do what works for you. And for me personally, I don't have Outlook notifications like activated on my phone anymore. It's all through, my laptop, because sometimes it's just too much. Like, I'm chilling on a Friday night, it's like 8 p.m. and I'm getting work emails. It's just like, no, like, I need some, like you said, separation between your work life and your personal life. And, modeling the two, sometimes it can just be a little bit overwhelming. And yeah, like, we're transitioning into the last question that I have for you, Dr. Cloud. Um, I wanted to touch on self care actually. So, one of my favorite songs is One of Those Days by Whitney Houston. And
Mhm.
this is like a self care anthem. And for me, I'm a Taurus. I'm all about self care. Like, I'm a self care enthusiast. So yeah, in this song, Whitney Houston is singing about how it's been one of those crazy weeks from her, and she has to do something special for herself. She talks about getting a massage. She talks about getting a manicure and pedicure, lighting candles, being in the hot tub, and like the
Mhm.
bubbles surrounding herself. So, what does self care mean to you, and how do you practice it in your own life?
So one, I love Whitney Houston. That's my
Me
girl.
too. That's mother.
So self care for me, oh Lord, self care for me is a couple of different things. So one is family time. Spending time with my family is so therapeutic. I love getting to play with my siblings. I love hanging out with my mom. Seeing my grandmother. That's one part of self care. I love to cook. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say that black men don't cook. I love to cook, but I love to bake. Baking
Oh,
reduces so much stress and anxiety. If I'm having a bad day, I will bake up a storm. I think when I used one of my jobs, I was having one of the worst days ever. I was just so stressed out. I came home and I made like 2 cakes and a whole bunch of cupcakes. And I was like, I don't
wow.
know where these are going, but I think I'm gonna work the next day. I was like, y'all, free dessert. But it helps reduce my anxiety and my stress because cooking relaxes me.
Yeah.
Um, TV, of course, my comfort shows are part of my self care.
Yeah.
But I think I also love to go shopping. So retail therapy to an extent within a
Yeah.
budget, because if I don't set myself a budget, I come back with more items than I actually do not need. And my mom laughs at me, but I be so dead serious. Like if I'm going shopping, I need to go shopping within the budget.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't set myself a budget, I'm gonna be shopping like I don't have to pay bills again later.
Yeah.
And so retail therapy, but I think my biggest form of self care is just like you. I love to play music. So when
Yes.
I'm cleaning up around the house, and I kind of get that from my father. My dad likes to play music while he cleans up, so I'm kind of the same way. While I'm cleaning up, I could be doing dishes, I could be cooking, I could just be home alone. Everything will be turned off, but I have music playing, and of course, one of my favorite songs is I have two favorite songs. So one is Whitney Houston, "I Look to You,"
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite songs for self care. And then
Yes.
my other favorite song, and it's so funny because I know this song is not meant for me, but I just love what it is. It's Carl Jones, "She's a Bad Mama Jamma." Don't ask me why, but when I hear that song and I'm cleaning up, I don't know. My house becomes a '70s disco. My
Love
back
it.
my back becomes a mic, and it's just me having fun. I'm dancing around the house. I'm cleaning up, and I get to be this carefree black boy, right?
Yeah.
I get to be in the moment with myself. I get to have so much
Yeah.
fun with myself, and I don't have this anxiety or the stress that comes along with being judged, because
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that I like to do, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people aren't used to that, to seeing black men dance, them being joyful singing. I think just yesterday, I got home dancing around the house, listening to music and while I'm cleaning up and just having fun with myself. and
Yeah.
and it's so therapeutic. I think that is one of the most therapeutic things ever. Because I was
Yeah.
like, well, we've had a blast, like fun, right? And I'm not one of those people because I always tell people self care is very important. Like I was telling my mom, this weekend is my self care weekend. I go get mani pedis. I want my twin sister. We went and got a mani
Mhm.
pedi. A lot of people,
Period.
a lot of people, when I go to the nail salon, I have gotten used to getting looks from people because they're not used to seeing a man wanting a mani pedi.
I
Um, I was raised on good hygiene that a man should always keep his cuticles clean. So
Amen.
petties, and I go with my sister sometimes because we get to have those conversations with each other about our lives, about our anxiety, about our stress, and kind of have that back and forth conversation as siblings. So that's kind of what my self care looks like. And
Yeah,
I always tell people, find what works for you.
literally.
Like it may be shopping, it may be sleep for self care,
Yeah.
it may be singing, dancing around the house, it may be baking. Some people like the garden.
Yeah.
I don't have a green thumb. Everything I plant dies. So just find what your self care is, and find your self care anthem. Like everybody has a song for self care. I have
Mhm.
to. Like as soon as you hear one of those songs, you know that that's my self care anthem. And my mom
Yeah.
has kind of realized that too. Now, in my old age, as soon as you hear Whitney Houston, I look to you, or you hear she's a bad mama jamma, we finna have a good day. We probably going shopping in the next couple of hours. So put on your tennis shoes and then just walk around the mall with me. I'm gonna buy you something. But and we're probably gonna go out to eat later as well and get family dinner. And
Yeah.
for me, that is a perfect self-care day. Because I got to incorporate everything that I love into one day.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything that you just said. I love it so much. Yeah, for me, self-care, it looks like I got really big into skincare over the pandemic because
Mm.
my skin was acting up. And I just got really into skincare. I got into doing, masks and just like using all these like really therapeutic products. And I love that you also brought up, people that people look at you when you walk into the nail salon with your twin sister because you're a man. And honestly, like we live in such a patriarchal society that like anything feminine or like anything that women do or like feminine presenting people do, like it's just so demonized, like, oh, I don't need that, like, but like once you really like start to unpack that and unlearn that patriarchal, I guess like how that all stems from patriarchy and just like allow yourself to partake in these self-care things, like, getting a massage, having a facial, getting your nails done, like it feels so good, like these things instantly boost my mood, like the results are almost immediate. And I think, yeah, like you said, it's so important to just find out what works for you. Some people, their self-care is working out, yoga, like I also love yoga myself. Just finding out what works for you. And yeah, I just, I really loved our conversation today, Dr. Cloud. I think that we touched on so many topics. We talked about boundary setting, giving yourself grace, self care, stereotypes in our community that can harm our mental health when dealing with anxiety. I just love speaking with you, and I just wanted to see before we wrap up here if you had any like takeaways or any things that you wanted to add to this topic before we end our broadcast.
So I will say that when we're for everybody who's listening, when we're looking at anxiety and we're looking at stress, I think sometimes we feel like we're unable to get over that hump in the road, and we feel like our anxiety and our stress are going to consume us.
Yeah.
I want you to have the chance to not only give yourself grace, but take a pause in your life and deal with it. And what I mean by deal with it is that give yourself the autonomy to see exactly what's going on and then handle it that way, because once you are kind of aware of what's causing it, then you can be aware of how to fix it, and
Yeah.
that's going to make your life so much better. And if you ever feel like that you're unable to handle your anxiety or your stress, get a therapist. Therapy, I promise you, will solve so many problems in your life
Mm-hmm.
like that you do not have. And for my mental health professionals, a therapist can have a therapist.
Yeah.
Like our host said earlier, write down what you need, what you're looking for in a therapist. My therapist is a Black woman.
Mhm.
I wish I could find a Black male therapist, but mine is a Black woman who met
Mhm.
all the criteria that I needed.
Mhm.
So I'm I was comfortable with her at that time period. So therapy works, and don't ever feel like that you can never overcome anything. Just kind of find exactly your roots or your grounding and go from there.
Yeah. And, like you said, I also agree with what you said. Therapists are really, really helpful. They're there to support you. Anxiety can be a very isolating disorder, and just know that you're not alone. And there's so many people in this world that care about you and want the best for you. And yeah, just if you can, if it's available to you, please seek therapy. And to the audience, if you guys want to keep up with Dr. Cloud, you can visit Black Men Need Love Too .my.canva.site, which focuses on the mental health struggles that Black men experience. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what one can find on the site, Dr. Cloud?
So Black Men Need Love Too is based off my doctoral research about unaddressed mental health in African American men. So on my website, you'll find a different episode about different things that Black men are going through. So last week's episode that we just launched was our season 1 finale, which is Black Men and Black Love. And
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of listed exactly how we as Black men are with not only Black love but love in general. And so I think that was one of my fun episodes because I got to talk openly about the stress and anxiety that comes along with being in love, and the stress and anxiety that comes with love as well, and how we as Black men and how it affects our mental health.
Yeah.
And then of course mental health resources are also always on there as well. For those who need mental health services, that's always on our website. And
Yeah.
you also find like different quotes and stuff as well, the kind of different affirmations that you're more than welcome to take. Write on notepads, do whatever with on our website. So it's just a hub. It's a safe space for Black men, or for those who love Black men, who support Black men, who care about Black men, who protect Black men, to share with Black men as well, letting them know that there is a safe space for them, and there is a place for them to get all this type of mental health resources, from a fellow Black man who has been in the same predicament as they have as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, so you guys can visit again Black Men Need Love Too.my.canva.site. And thank you all so much for tuning into Black Mental Health Matters. To support our show, please visit bmhm.org. And for the latest conversations on Black mental health, you guys can follow us on all social platforms. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.